off. Hello, my name is Brad Bodnerchuk, and welcome to the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast. We discuss everything hospitality, from the food on the plate to the teams that make it happen and the community that drives this industry forward. On this podcast, we sit down and chat with some of the most exciting, inspiring, and innovative minds that make up one of the most dynamic industries that there is today. And today, we are lucky to have none other than Miss Sarah Morten. Welcome to the show, Sarah.
Hi, Brad. Thank you.
So for those of you that don't know, Sarah is a friend of mine, but she is also the junior sous chef currently at the Four Seasons here in Vancouver and has been hacking it in the food and beverage industry for the past 13 years.
That's right.
So for those that don't know, tell us, the viewers and listeners, how this all started 13 years ago, what it looked like.
13 years ago, I was in high school and my sister was working at a seafood restaurant in West Vancouver. And I was like, hey, it'd be nice to get some extra money. Can you help me out? And so she got me a job working at the seafood counter at this restaurant. So I cut all the fish, supplied the restaurant for all the fish throughout dinner service, throughout lunch service, and also dealt with customers working the deli. I did that commute from Burnaby to West Vancouver for about a year, and then I moved onwards and upwards to the boathouse. I worked at the boathouse, I guess, throughout the majority of high school. Worked there throughout high school while I was wrestling at the same time. I graduated high school and decided to kind of pursue my wrestling career. Unfortunately, that didn't work out as well as I'd planned. And I landed myself as a kitchen manager at a pub in North Burnaby, just around the corner from where I was living. Worked there for about a year and a half and kind of decided, okay, I need to move on to the next step. I got to get a little bit bigger. I got to get a little bit better. And I went to culinary school.
Okay.
I was in culinary school for about 6 months. And that was down at Granville Island at Pacific Culinary Institute.
Oh, cool.
When I graduated there, I graduated top of my class. I was pretty stoked.
Yeah, I bet.
Around the same time of my graduation, my dual citizenship came through. So I was blessed with a European passport.
Amazing.
And I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's go somewhere. And my chef's like, it's great. What language do you speak? And I was like, English. And he's like, okay. And I moved to London.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I lived in London for just shy of a year. And I worked for, I don't know if you guys know him, but a chef called Gordon Ramsay.
Oh, wow. I had no idea.
Yeah. So I worked at his restaurant. It was called Bread Street Kitchen. It was more of a casual business kind of vibe in East Central London, just behind St. Paul's. I worked there for a grueling about 10 months. And those were the long days. Those were the 18-hour shifts.
Wow.
Those were the 4 days on, 3 days off. It was tough work, tough grunt work. We would do about upwards of 1,500 covers a day. And it was
God.
go, 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 go. And after that, I moved home and I landed a job at the Four Seasons. And I've been there working away for about 5 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And after all of that, do you still enjoy it?
I love it.
Yeah?
There's days where I definitely don't. There's hard days, but at the end of it, I love it. I love my job. I love my coworkers. I love what I do. I love the food. And, I'm constantly inspired by everything that's around me. So it keeps me fueled.
That's awesome. Why did I not know until this very moment that you, one, lived in London? Either we hadn't talked about it or I just forgot about it. And two, worked under Gordon Ramsay. One, because I used to live in London.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And I used to run a pub right across the street from St. Paul's.
Oh my God. Wait,
Yeah.
Which one?
It was called, at the time, the Heel Tap and Bumper.
Oh.
It was a group, a Davies group of pubs. Long story, but
oh man.
Little did I know, after I left and came back home, Heel Tap and Bumper was terminology for ordering a drink. You tap the heel of your drink on the bar to get the bartender's attention. And then a bumper, I believe, I could be getting this wrong, so if you're listening and you know the right answer, please do tell me. But the bumper was the size either of the wine or of the mixed drink. Anyway, so heel tap and bumper. I cut my teeth there for a bit. So it's crazy that you were, and that was in 2004, 2006.
Okay, I was there a little bit later. So I got over there in 2012.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. So I was at, it was a big kind of like shopping center just in behind St. Paul's called One New Change. The restaurant was literally across the street from Jamie Oliver restaurant called Barbacoa.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
Small world, yet huge at the same time.
Yeah, no kidding.
So for a lot of people that have been in the industry for as long as you have, they hit a point where they get burnt out and they kind of lose their zest to go in every day. So what is it? You mentioned the people and the food and the inspiration that you get, but beyond that, like tangibly, what does it do for you? How do you get up every day and go into work and do something that can be at times extremely thankless?
It's all about balance. I often do tours at the hotel with soon to be graduating students from culinary school, and they always ask me the same question. You know, how do you stay focused? How do you keep motivated? It's all about the work-life balance. As a chef, we're notorious for working long hours, you know, long stretches of work, you know, 7 days in a row, 10 days in a row, 12 days in a row.
Mm-hmm.
You need to find the balance. You need to find something outside of your day-to-day work that keeps you motivated. I go to the gym. No matter what I do, I always find time in my day to make sure that I get a workout in, whether it's a half an hour run or, you know, an hour-long CrossFit session. I make sure that I have something else.
Right.
Because with those long hours, if that's all you have, that's where you get burnt out. You know, you're doing the same grunt work day after day after day, and you feel like, where's the end?
Mm-hmm.
You know, where's my motivation?
Right.
But if you have something else that, you know, kicks your butt just as hard,
mm-hmm.
it keeps you excited and keeps you wanting to go back for more.
How do you, and one thing you mentioned there, this just popped in my head. So if you're doing, so say you've been cooking the same menu for 4 months or 3 months or however long it would be at Four Seasons when you guys change it. At what point is it just automatic and not so inspiring?
See, you can't get like that. At the Four Seasons, for instance, lunch. Every week we have a feature menu.
Right.
So whether that's inspired by me or that's inspired by the cooks, you know, you always have a new dish
mm-hmm.
that you're doing. So you're not constantly doing the same four dishes or whatever dishes your section puts out. You know, you have something else that keeps you motivated. And as sous chefs, that's what we really push our cooks to look forward to is we bring in a new product or we bring in something different and say, hey guys, I've got this. What do you want to do with it?
Right.
Let's play with it.
Cool. So there is some creativity.
Always.
Explain to those people that don't know, and I will admit I'm a bit of a layman when it comes to totally understanding the ranks within a kitchen, only because the kitchens that I've worked alongside with haven't been that large, so they haven't really required different levels of sous chefs and head chefs, etc. So help me understand what it is that a junior sous would do that a sous chef wouldn't do, or vice versa.
Well, it's not so much that there's things that a junior sous would do and a sous chef wouldn't do. I've been in my current position for, I guess, 9 months now.
Okay.
And they make a junior sous position as just kind of as a stepping stone. So it's moving me out of the position of constantly working a section, understanding the kind of the back aspects of a kitchen, like realizing that it's not just food. You know, there's labor, there's standards, there's budgets, there's things that you need to understand, and scheduling and labor. And so it's slowly stepping me away from the cooking side of it and slowly pushing me into the number side of it, I guess you'd say. And they make this junior position so it's not full force.
Right.
So I'm there, I'm guided, I'm supported, and I'm mentored to develop me into that sous chef who's able to, you know, take menus and break them apart and understand the costing and why the costing's done like this, and understand why some items are costed a little bit higher, or, you know, they're able to be sold at not the greatest food cost, but because they're such a successful dish, at the end of the day, we still make money from it. And so it's just more of like a stepping stone position. So I'm not kind of thrown in and I don't fall on my face.
Right. And do you enjoy that other side of it? Do you enjoy kind of getting off the line and costing out dishes? Is this something that you are passionate about, or do you find it a bit laborious?
No, it's good. I mean, it's definitely different. So going from being a cook, where I was at the Four Seasons for 4 years, you know, it gets tough. You're out there for the whole service. Whereas as a sous chef, we're able to step back, and it allows me to understand more of the organizational parts of the kitchen, which I love. I'm so meticulously, my sous chefs always used to make fun of me at the time. I'd be so OCD. Whenever I'd get ready for a dinner service, everything would be laid out perfectly. And they knew when I was ready because I'd fold my white towels to wipe down my pans in the exact same way every single day and place them in the exact same corner of my oven. They'd be like, oh, everybody, Sarah's ready for service. We're going to have a good one. And so I like that kind of the breakdown of the kitchen that I get to experience now as a sous chef, being able to, go into the cooler and see it perfectly organized and meticulously order my veg for the next coming days and so on and so forth.
That's cool. What is it like working for a big brand like the Four Seasons? And I'm assuming not having an endless budget, but what you're producing is a lot different than what you would have produced at the pub in North Burnaby, pardon me. Right?
Yeah, definitely. It's cool. We have the luxurious opportunity to have more high-end clientele that come in on a regular basis and say, you know what, chef, I'd like to bring in me and 4 guests for dinner. Whatever you want to cook, whatever you want the budget to be, whatever you want to charge us, go for it. Make something fun.
Right.
Which is unbelievable.
Yeah.
You really get the opportunity to push yourself creatively, push your cooks creatively, and just kind of bring in like cool things and do cool things, which is great because you have the support of the large company that will allow you to do that because it continues to bring those high rollers into the restaurant, I guess you'd say.
So are there any cons then of working for a big brand like a Four Seasons hotel?
Everyone has to be involved. So in a smaller restaurant, you write a menu, you love the menu, you print the menu, that's your menu.
Right.
The Four Seasons, you write a menu, you test the dish, you might like the dish and everyone around you might like the dish, but then the people above you have to like the dish. And if they don't like the dish, then you got to go back to the drawing board. So there's a lot longer of an approval process to, say, release a menu or change a menu or, so on and so forth.
That goes back to my thing about creativity. Does something as structured as that, does it kind of diminish the ability to be creative? I get the fact that you guys have the opportunity to like deal with different suppliers and buy in bigger volumes, et cetera, and you have fresh sheets. But at the end of the day, you've got to get it passed by this person, that person, and that person. So is there either, do you see it happen often, or is there more opportunity then for it to be a little bit diminished?
There's definitely limitations often. As a chef, you write a dish and, you're cooking this dish and this food and you're like, this is great. It's going to sell. They're going to love it. But then, somebody in a suit and tie says, but I don't like it.
Right.
So it can't go on your menu.
Right.
And it's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah. But it's one of those things where often you do have to bite a bullet and you have to swallow your pride and you have to go back to the drawing board and start all over again. But there's ups and downs, but there's ups and downs
for sure.
everywhere.
Yeah, totally.
So, there'll never be a kitchen that's perfect. So there's always going to be somebody, and even whether it's people above you or even clientele, you'll put a dish out that you stand by and you love, and somebody in their restaurant will send it back like, I don't like it. It doesn't taste good. This is wrong. And you're like, okay, I'm sorry. What can I do for you?
Right. How do you deal with that? Besides, what can I do for you? And I'm sorry.
I'm a firm believer. The cooks always make fun of me. If I'm smiling, I'm not angry.
Right.
So, because, with that, you have to swallow your pride.
Okay.
The Four Seasons we're the house of yes.
Oh, okay. So the customer is always right.
The customer is always right.
Wow.
And if the customer would like pancakes at 11:30 at night, no problem, ma'am. That'll be a 35-minute wait. Okay. And it makes it tough. It makes it really hard. But we've created that brand at the Four Seasons where people expect, they expect high end and they expect quality and they expect luxury and they expect to get what they want when they want it.
Right.
And, it really tests your patience as a cook, but I really feel like it helps develop you as a cook because as chefs in the industry, we're known for having tempers. We're known for lashing out. And this kind of forces you to reel it in and take a deep breath and understand like, it's okay.
Right.
It's just pancakes.
It's just pancakes at 11:30.
Yeah.
Do you personally believe the customer is always right?
No.
Okay. So at what point is the customer not always right?
I mean, there's times where, say, it comes down to a preference. And that's what sometimes people forget.
How do you mean?
I'll have a guest, he'll send back a perfectly cooked halibut.
Right.
It's opaque, it's got a shine, it's stellar.
Right.
And they're like, that's raw. No, sir. Unfortunately, you've just never had well-cooked halibut.
Right.
But, at the end of the day, we say, okay, you asked the front of house manager, what would you like me to do to help this situation?
Right.
The guest would like a new one. Perfect. Re-ring it in, and I'll get one going right away.
Right.
So.
And then what do you do, though? Because if you just cooked the perfect one.
You overcook it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And, and there's always times where a guest, even, they'll come into the restaurant and be like, oh, well, I want this with this and this and this and this. And you think, that sounds terrible.
Right.
So you look to the managers, of course, I can accommodate them. But I tell you now, if the guest does not like what I create after all of the specifications, it's not my fault.
Right.
So if you come in and you request this and you're disappointed by it, I don't bite the bullet on that. You bite the bullet on that.
Right. So if you order pancakes at 11:30 and then all of a sudden you decide you wanted waffles,
you wait a little bit longer.
You're gonna wait another 35
exactly.
minutes.
Everything comes with a timestamp. So anything can be done, but you need to be patient.
Yeah, that's crazy. You know what? It reminds me of my experience when I first started in the industry. And as you were talking, I had a flashback to working at Paddy's Pub in Wolfville, Nova Scotia. I have no idea if it's still there, but shout out to Paddy and all of his pubs. And I was a server, and we served Coca-Cola. And a customer came in, and they wanted Pepsi. And I was so gung-ho of like creating the right experience for my guests that I ran across the street and bought the person a Pepsi. And it is those little things that you do. You go that extra little bit to make a waffle instead of the pancake or whatever it is, or cook the halibut again. It's those little things that I think when I dropped off that Pepsi, I felt so much pride because I knew I really impacted their experience in that space. Yeah. So I'm assuming it's kind of the same for you, even though it is a bit of a hassle. There's a bit of a high when you know that it might not have been, it wasn't the Coke, but it was the Pepsi. And just because I deviated a bit, it actually wasn't that big of a deal. Yeah. So overcooking the halibut, as much as it's not in line with the way you've been taught and the way you teach and the way you would like to have it done, at the end of the day, it makes that person's experience that much more enjoyable. It's
100% right. We have regular guests that like things done a certain way and a certain setup. And, as a cook before, I was like, oh, it's such a pain in the ass. Why? Mm-hmm. Why do we have to do this?
Right.
And as you develop and as you see it unfold in front of you and you see how happy that guest is or how elated this little girl is that she got pancakes at 10:30 when their flight arrived late.
Right.
You get that like overwhelming, like, I did that.
Yeah.
That was me.
Yeah.
And you do get that sense of happiness. Sometimes you just got to get outside of that, like, oh, stupid customer.
Right.
And think, like at the end of the day, like if you were in that person's shoes,
right,
how good would you feel if you were able to be accommodated? Yeah. If
your expectations were met.
Yeah.
Even though you might like your halibut a little too well done.
Exactly.
It's actually my stepfather. He'll hate me saying this, but he absolutely destroys all of his proteins. He overcooks them. Like, I don't get it. But at the end of the day, I'm reminded by, and please someone correct me if I'm saying this wrong, because I've been saying it for about 15 years. I think it's King Henry V. I keep saying it's King Henry V. But King Henry V would say, over taste, there shall be no discussion. So what you like is what you like. What I like is what I like. So if you like your steak medium rare, great. I like mine like it was run over by a truck kind of thing. That's what my stepfather would say. So I can see at times how that would be very challenging for someone that even like took so much time to either like butcher a protein down, you know what I mean? And then to have it go out at just like the most ridiculous cook. But that's not defined by you in the kitchen. It's defined by the end consumer, right?
Yeah, exactly. My dad's the same. Whenever we're grilling at home, it's the ongoing joke. Put dad's steak on first, close the
Right.
barbecue, come back 10 minutes later, put everyone else's on. But you know what? He sits there, he eats it, and he loves it.
Exactly.
So
Over taste,
Yeah.
there shall be no discussion. I'm gonna actually Google that after this. I've been meaning to, because I've been using that quote for about 14 years. Quick story: the reason I use that quote is because we used to always make fun of my roommate in university, Greg Hayden. Greg, how are you, buddy? We used to always make fun of him because I haven't told this story on the show, so this is the time to do it. He would make scrambled eggs and toast. Very common, very normal breakfast. But he would put jam on his toast. And then as he was putting his eggs into his mouth, he had to put the jam and toast at the same time because he hated the texture of the eggs. So we would always make fun of him. Greg, I'm sorry. But he would always say, over taste, there shall be no discussion. So, and it stuck with me. And you know what? It's so accurate in different aspects of our lives.
Yeah.
We can all have an opinion on the way we should dress or look or eat or all those things. But at the end of the day, it is what you like.
For sure.
So speaking of what you like, give us an idea of what an ideal meal or an ideal dinner out looks like for you, for as far as like walking through the door, the service you get, the meal you eat, everything.
Oh my goodness.
What are you looking for when you dine?
That's a really tough question, come to think of it, Brad. I mean, at the end of the day, it kind of depends on what I'm doing. Am I going out for a family dinner? Am I going out for beers after work?
Right.
But let's say perfect dinner. I've got 3 of my closest friends. You walk into the restaurant, the hostess is nice. You definitely walk into some places and they do not have a smile on. It's key. It's your first interaction. Like, you don't have to be over the moon, but be polite.
Right.
I love when they offer to take my jacket.
Okay.
I don't know why.
For all you hostesses out there,
Take my
if you see
jacket.
Sarah, ma'am, may I take your jacket? What if
Don't
you're not
call me ma'am,
Oh,
though.
okay. Just edit the ma'am out. Just say, can I take your jacket?
I often get called ma'am, and it's not a comforting word.
Okay. So no ma'am, just
No, ma'am.
can I take your jacket?
Can I take your jacket?
Yeah.
All right. I guess next. I like, and this is something that, I mean, you'd never know, and I'd never put it in my comments. I love open kitchens. So most of the restaurants that I will dine at will be an open kitchen.
Okay. Is that just, are you searching those out? Sorry to interrupt. Are you searching those out? But does it just happen, the ones that you like happen to have open kitchens?
Basically. I mean, it's pretty common in the city nowadays. Most of the smaller restaurants, most of the, the more, I guess you'd say, the hip places.
Right.
You can often almost always see into the kitchen.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm watching or judging. I just love, and it's weird because I'm in it every day. Every day I'm in it, but I love seeing it. I love seeing the dynamic of the cooks, the way that the expo's running the pass. I love it all. So that's my number one, is that I love seeing the kitchen.
Right.
I'm more of a small plates girl, so I love the idea of sharing. I come from an Italian family, and everything's family style. Everyone passes down the table. Oh, don't forget this. Oh, do you have some of that? So being able to go to restaurants that have smaller menus with small plates where you can basically sit down and order everything.
Right.
And say, you try this, you try that, you discuss this, you discuss that. It comes at leisure. I love not everything at once.
Right.
Like that low key, oh, here's 2 of these dishes and here's one of this dish. And here comes your main course.
Right.
In terms of service, it's always a fine line between too in your face, but they're just enough.
It's like a dance.
Yeah, it really is.
It's like, do you want to be bumped up on and like grinded on from behind, or you want to be like swayed? And but I think different environments call for different type of dancing.
Exactly. I just had a great dinner at Autostrada for my birthday, and we sat at the bar.
Shout out to Autostrada.
And the bartender, she was attentive. She made jokes when they were necessary. She, added her input. We were having a tough time deciding on the menu, and she's like, you know what? This is great.
Right.
And it was.
Is Autostrada up on Main?
Yeah, it's Main and 37th, just beside that large match day.
Shout out to my buddy Cam, who actually just finished that project before they opened up. He was the general contractor on it.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah,
awesome
Cam,
spot.
Well done.
Yeah, it's small, and I love that. I work in the Four Seasons. We're big. We're a beast of a restaurant. But when you have the ability to go to those small, 75, 8, like maximum 80 seat restaurants,
Right.
they're tough to get reservations to. But once you get in there,
Yeah,
you understand why it's so hard.
exactly. Do you mind waiting for food?
Not at all.
Do you mind lining up for food?
Depends. I mean, how long is that line up?
Right.
If you're at the right restaurant, if you ever go to Vidges up on Canby,
Yeah.
you line up for food, you get in line, they bring you into this nice little back room, you can order a cocktail, they bring you some canapes.
Right.
Perfect.
Okay, so you're cool with that.
Yeah, totally. And if you're with the right crew of people, it doesn't really matter how long you're waiting for the food because you've got a conversation.
Right.
I mean, there's nothing worse than, if you're sitting in a restaurant, a first date and it's super awkward and nobody's saying anything. Well, then, please chop. Let's hurry up with this food.
Right.
But, if you're with the right group of people, conversation is what's bringing you together anyways. And the food's just a nice little addition to it.
Yeah. I think I've touched on that in almost every podcast I've done so far. And it's such a truth for me is that this all comes back to this podcast and why we're here. But food just brings people together.
Yeah.
And like you said, you can, I personally don't want to wait in a lineup, but I will wait quite a long time if I'm with the right people and the conversation is good and the atmosphere is nice. And if they're doing those little touches to make you forget about the wait, do you know what I mean? Those little tiny things.
It's all about them reminding you that we haven't forgotten. We know you're there.
Yeah. And we know we're really busy.
And we know we're super busy. Yeah.
But I think it's becoming more of a thing in this city and others as well, but mostly the city I'll speak to because this is when I dine in the most. But because reservations now are not really a thing in most new restaurants, again, general statement, but because reservations aren't really a thing, you get a lot of those. Either you're showing up at 5:30 when they open the doors, or you have to wait till 9:30.
Yeah.
So it's challenging, or you're going to wait if you want to go at 6:30, 7, as you know, you're probably going to wait in a line.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, but you know what? People will wait, and I think we as consumers are becoming more used to that, more trained to expect that when we go to like the busy hip places, like you're saying.
Exactly.
It's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
What is your biggest pet peeve as a consumer in a restaurant? I didn't prompt you for this. I apologize.
No.
Or do you have one?
I don't really think I have one.
No?
No, I mean,
Mine is this. It's the grabbing of the glasses by the mouth, the top of the glass, as they're like dropping. Or auctioning food off. I really don't like auctioning food off.
No, but the thing is that that comes down to the server.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know, auctioning food is like if Sarah and I are out on a date, we're dining one and two, like we'd be in seats 1 and 2. Sarah ordered the pasta, I ordered the pizza. Instead of someone coming over and just saying, who had the pasta, who had the pizza? It's knowing, okay, Sarah had the pasta. Yeah. 1 had the pasta, 2 had the pizza. Like those little things, going back to what you're saying, it's those little things that for me make such a difference, and the awareness, like with the glassware. Yeah.
I think now that I'm thinking of it more, when it comes to serving, there's nothing worse. Say it's a table of 4. And it's not share plates, everyone ordered their main course.
Right.
And they deliver 3 out of the 4 main courses.
Right.
And that 4th person's just sitting there.
Right.
Twiddling their thumbs. Okay.
Yeah.
Where is it? And that's at fault of the server. And admittedly, that's at fault of the kitchen too.
Mm-hmm.
If your team's not working dynamically together, putting, tables up together, you've got 3 plates sitting up there that are dying, and the chef's like, get this out. Oh, where's the 4th one?
Yeah.
And that person's sitting there waiting. I'm all for, if it's not a share plate style of restaurant, everything's got to come together.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
God, I just blanked. I wanted to ask a really cool question about what you were just talking about. So because my experience is predominantly front of house, I did some time in London, actually, in the back of house, just to learn kind of how it all worked. But how do you find at the Four Seasons, and then how have you found in your previous roles that relationship between front of house and back of house? Because my experience, it can be really great at times, and it can be really fueled and nasty and bad at times. So how do you run your shift, and how do you find your team interacts with front of house and vice versa?
There's definitely good days and bad days. A lot of it comes down to, I'd say a lot of it comes down to the servers. And this isn't to bash front of house whatsoever. But I know they always say there's no stupid question. But when it's a brunch service and I'm doing 150 covers and I have a server come up and say, "Chef, may I?" "Yes, how can I help you?" "Could I get a dairy-free hollandaise?" No.
So don't call her ma'am and don't ask her mid-shift on a brunch for a dairy-free hollandaise.
Sometimes it's when, you're busy and they come up and they ask you stupid questions, or as a restaurant, I mean, I'm not sure if all small restaurants do this, but as a big restaurant, when we launch menus, we send out what are called pickup charts.
Okay.
So these pickup charts have the photo of the dish and they have a breakdown of the ingredients in the dish. At the bottom of it, they have a descriptor of allergens. So whether it's gluten or dairy or pork, et cetera,
Right.
and so these are given out to all the servers. They're given out to all the new hires, whether front of house or back of house. Everybody gets it. And at one point, when I first started at the Four Seasons, I worked under a chef under the name of Ned Bell. I don't know if anybody knows him. But
Shout out to Ned.
He's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
And he had this award-winning chowder. And we would sell this off the hook. And this chowder is known for being thickened with rice flour.
Oh, okay.
Gluten-free.
Right.
Really gearing to the Vancouver crowd of staying away from gluten, et cetera. We always knew it was gluten-free.
Right.
And at least every single service, somebody would ask us, "Could I get the chowder gluten-free?"
Would you say no? Sorry.
Yeah, no, can't have it. Sorry, can't do it. Or, super convenient. I don't know if you knew this, but it's been gluten-free the entire time.
You know what? I have to admit, and I'm going to be the first one to give you guys, the back of house people, a peek under the tent in the front of the house. We actually know all the answers. We just want to piss you guys off during shift to see
They
if
do
we can.
a great job of it.
Yeah, exactly. No, but it is always interesting to me to see that interaction, and it's tough because you guys being back of house people are extremely you're under extreme pressure to execute a menu and dishes and timing, all those things. But then on the other side, the front of house people are under extreme pressure as well, because they're the face. They're the ones that are between the consumer and their food. So at the end of the day, I hope deep down in the bottom of my heart that all front of house people are really just trying to take care of their guests.
Of course.
But I get what you're saying. It can be frustrating if you guys are quote unquote in the weeds and someone's asking a question that should have been understood months, years ago. So that can be frustrating.
Yeah, there's always a battle, but you're right. At the end of the day, sometimes these servers are asking these outrageous questions, and I just think to myself, I am so happy I'm not you.
Right.
I can kind of roll my eyes and say, "Oh my God, yeah, we can do this. No, we can't do this.
Right,
yes,
right.
this. But then I have to think, you got to go to that table with a smile and say, "Of course, ma'am, I can accommodate you."
Exactly. Yeah, it can be very challenging.
Very challenging.
Or if at that table of four, they bring out the 3 dishes and the fourth one is going to be another half hour because someone did something to the halibut. Do you know what I mean?
Somebody dropped the ball.
And they have to be the one, again, going back to that whole analogy of the dance, they have to be the one to really make that dance work again, whether it's a cocktail or whether it's something that's going to make that experience work. Because I don't know about you, but for me, and I hear a lot of varied opinions on this, but a lot of people will say, if the food sucks, if the food is underwhelming and the service is great, like top notch, I'll go back. But if the other way around, it's not happening.
Yeah.
Or is it the same for you?
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. It's not just front of house and it's not just back of house. You got to work together.
Yeah, for sure.
But, if sometimes kitchens have bad days, I, as a cook, I've definitely had bad days where I've put food out and I've thought, I'm almost embarrassed of it.
Right.
But I know if it's going into the right server's hands, they can make all the difference for that guest.
Right.
And if they make that difference, that guest will come back and give us another shot.
They David Blaine it somehow.
Exactly.
It's completely charred, but somehow it's perfect. They do something to it.
They sell it. They make you convinced. They can almost convince you that
that's how it's supposed to look.
That was great.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah. And their friends are like, that looks terrible. Going back to, you mentioned your Italian background. What is it about Italian food that is so, pardon my language, grandma, goddamn good?
It's love and butter.
Right.
You know, that's what it's honestly, it's love. And all my meals growing up, and that's honestly what inspired me to get into the kitchen, is that you see the time and the effort that they put into that. Like that fresh pasta tasted so damn good because it took Nona so damn long to make it.
Right.
Or those beautiful little fluffy gnocchi pillows are like, oh, these are amazing because it took her so damn long to make it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, she takes the time and she notices it's the little things, right?
Yeah.
Same thing whether it's Italian food, whether it's your dining experience, it all comes down to the little things.
Right. Is that unique to Italian food though? Going back to like the love and the time? Can we say that about other cuisines, or what is it?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean,
like
it's
Indian food or like
it's that homey, like it's the comfort aspect of it.
right.
You know, the meals that take almost but sometimes hours to make in the kitchen, whether it's an amazing curry that fragrances the entire house and you walk into the house and you're like, oh my God, what's going on?
Yeah.
What are you making? Where's that coming from?
Give me some naan bread and a spoon.
Exactly.
Now. Yeah. So do you find you are able to flex that Italian muscle a bit in your kitchen, or are you under such high demand with crazy amount of seatings, mouths to feed, time, et cetera, that you can't really put the time and effort into? Or is this starts before you even open the doors? This starts when mise en place and all those other things?
It comes down to mise en place. Like you think about, for instance, I think one of the most difficult things in a kitchen sometimes is to be the saucier. So to be the saucier, you're making all the sauces, in our restaurants, it's the sauces and the proteins.
Right.
And those sauces, that's the love.
Okay.
Like the time in roasting the bones and roasting the mirepoix and slowly simmering it for hours on hours and, you know, skimming it and reducing it and setting it and seasoning it and finishing it. Like that's where all that love is in that 2 tablespoons of sauce that gets finished on your steak or your chicken or, you know, that béarnaise that goes on your steak, for instance.
I'm all of a sudden just super hungry.
Super hungry.
That's the only bad thing about this show is we always end up talking about food, and all I want to do is like
eat.
cut and just eat. I don't know. I don't have any food here right now, but that's all I want to do is just cut and eat. Part of the show, and I know that you listened to a couple episodes, so thank you so much yourself for tuning in.
Of course.
So you may know where I'm going with this. Usually it's unprompted, but because the show is called the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast, I like to ask every guest the half a dozen have-tos and the half a dozen haven't yets. So the half a dozen have-tos are something that you have done. You, Sarah Morten, have done, have experienced, have tasted, have tried, that you think the listeners and the viewers, they have to experience this. They have to eat this meal. They have to travel to this place. They have to burn their hands on a salamander. So what is 1 to half a dozen of Sarah Morten's have-tos?
2 years ago, I took an outrageous trip to New York City. And I ate and drank. I did. If you're not in the industry, you might not know what these mean, but I did a cumulative total of 15 Michelin stars in 5 days.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Your gut thanked you.
Oh, I came back with my jeans a little tighter than they were when I left.
That's okay.
My wallet a lot thinner.
Right.
But experiences of a lifetime. From 1 Michelin star restaurants to 3 Michelin star restaurants, the dining experience, the service, everything, the ins, the outs, the understanding of why, I can see why this place is a 2 Michelin star as opposed to that is why it's a 3 Michelin star restaurant.
Right.
It's an expensive experience, but do it.
Okay.
Go to New York and eat. Spend money on a meal that you would never do in your life ever again. And I promise you, it will be an experience of a lifetime.
Sorry, go ahead.
11 Madison Park was
there we go.
The first restaurant I went to.
Okay.
Our flight landed at 6 p.m. I got to the hotel at about 7:30. We had an 8 o'clock dinner reservation.
Nice.
We sat in the top far corner of the restaurant. It overlooked, we were up on kind of like a little bit of a platform. It overlooked all the diners. And we were there until about 3 o'clock in the morning.
Whoa, pardon me.
We had the sommelier, we had the bartender, we had our server sitting down with us, chatting with us. We got a kitchen tour. We got a meal served to us in the kitchen. I got
Wow.
photos with the chef.
So cool. You were
I
fangirling out.
fangirling so hard. I showed up with my cookbook.
Yeah.
I got them to sign it. I basically waddled out of that restaurant. I was so full and drunk,
Yeah.
and it was amazing.
Sweet. So one of Sarah Morton's have-tos is go to an 8 o'clock seating, stay till 3 a.m., completely piss off all of the staff because they have to stay there that late. No, I'm sure they really enjoyed it. And eat until your jeans don't fit.
Basically.
Any others?
Yeah, we went to another restaurant called Atera,
Okay.
which is a 2 Michelin star, quite small. It was just a chef's table, 16 seats around the kitchen. The
Nice.
cooks literally served you, and it was mind blowing. I had a razor clam and beet dish, and if you know me, I hate beets.
Whoa.
They taste like dirt,
Look out beats.
like not my thing. And I almost licked that plate.
Whoa.
Yeah, don't know how they did it. I don't even know what they did to it, but it was unbelievable. So that was another one. And then there was a couple of cocktail bars. We definitely went to a few speakeasies that were something that I've never experienced before. We went to one called Angel Share that was top floor of a Japanese sushi restaurant past an employees only do not enter swing push door.
Oh, cool.
And it was a tiny, maybe 20 seat bar.
Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing.
I don't drink, but I feel like if I walked in there, you'd have to just sit down and just try at least 1 or 18 of their cocktails.
Yeah, there was 12.
Oh, well done. Okay. Any other have-tos besides even just restaurants, trips you've taken, books you've read, music you've listened to?
Oh my goodness. There's a bunch. Travel.
Okay.
Yeah. My number one thing, travel. I tell it to cooks. I tell it to friends. Travel and eat. I was just in Barcelona and I had some of the most amazing, the greatest meals off dingy little alleyways. And I was like, oh, this place looks cool.
Right.
You don't even really know what you're ordering. You just kind of point at it. And
Right.
say, let's play some Russian roulette here.
Yeah, exactly.
All for it. Books to read. Unfortunately, just after the passing of Anthony Bourdain. Kitchen Confidential.
Yeah, such a great book.
Gives you the nitty gritty of the kitchen.
Right.
And it's unbelievable. I'm not a big book reader. I mean, I read cookbooks front to back, but Kitchen Confidential is really what almost excited me and inspired me to keep pushing and keep doing what I love every single day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one is the half a dozen haven't yets. So same kind of idea, 1 to 6 of things you haven't done yet, trips you haven't taken, Michelin star restaurants you haven't been to, pieces of equipment you haven't worked with, chefs you haven't worked alongside of, books you haven't read. So what would be 1 to half a dozen of Sarah Morton's haven't yets?
Definitely there's some trips. I'd love to do Southeast Asia.
Okay.
Eat off food carts, eat everything and anything,
Right.
That's definitely a number 1 for me. More trips, going to Chicago.
Oh yeah, Chicago's a great food city.
Great food city. One of my closest friends just got back from working over there for about 2 years. He's now the executive chef at the Pan Pacific.
Shout out Pan Pacific.
Shout out Pan Pacific.
What's his name?
Sean Murray.
Sean, get on the podcast, bro. Get at me.
So, definitely experiencing Chicago and some of the amazing restaurants that he boasted about. Going to Alinea.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Curtis Duffy just closed down his spot, which would have been probably one of my number 1s.
Okay.
Hopefully he'll reopen something soon and I can check that out.
Curtis, if you're listening, open up something soon.
Dominic Kren in San Francisco. I'm all for power hungry women in the kitchen. She's the only 3 Michelin star holding female chef in North America. I had the opportunity to work under Claire Smith. When I say work under, I mean pick time in a corner under Claire Smith.
Right.
In my time in London. Again, at the time, she was the only 3 Michelin star holding female chef in the kitchen.
So cool.
So it's great to see women like that in powerhouse roles and killing it every day. What else?
Anything not even food related necessarily or hospitality related? Anything you want to do that you haven't done yet?
I'm sure there's tons. I can't even think of them right now.
Okay, that's good. We can leave it at that.
Yeah.
You gave us a lot to think about, and I really appreciate your energy and your passion that you have for this industry because, like I said on podcasts before this one, this can be such a thankless industry. It can really wear people to the bone, and especially in roles that you've held and roles that you currently hold. the back of house kitchens can be super, super tough and can grind people to the bone. So kudos to you for sticking it out and still having a zest to not only expand your horizons, but work with people that are cooks coming up.
Yeah.
And one day hopefully stepping into shoes like yours. So I applaud you and celebrate you for doing that, because your excitement excites me about food again. So thank you for that. And thank you for coming on the podcast. Anything else you wanted to share before we wrap up? Where can people find you? Where can they support you? Where can they eat your food?
You can eat my food at the Four Seasons. I'm often there all the time.
Okay.
You can definitely see me there doing lunch service and or dinner service Monday, Tuesdays. We've got a wicked menu that me and our restaurant chef, Steven Bukoff, shout out to Steven,
Shout out Steve.
collaborated on and created. So if you ever want to see my food, that's where I am.
Amazing.
And if you ever want to see me after work, honestly, if it's been a long day, I promise you if I'm feeling fancy, I'm at Hawksworth Bar across the street. And if I'm feeling extra normal, I'm either at Cactus Club or the St. Regis.
Oh, okay. There you go. I like it.
Yep.
Thank you again, Sarah, so much for coming on. I really appreciate your time and appreciate what you do. Thank you guys for tuning in, listening, and watching. That is Sarah Morten. Do not feed her beets and do not call her ma'am. I am Brad Bodnar-Chuck. This is the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast. Thank you guys so much, and thank you, Sarah, again. Until next time, guys, be good and do good.